This incident occurred when I was 11. I have an older brother who was 16 and two younger brothers. Our parents often went out for dinner on Fridays, leaving us at home with rented videos, pizza, and my older brother in charge. He typically headed to his friend's place down the road, leaving me in charge. I relished the responsibility because it meant I got to choose the movies. One stormy Friday night, with intermittent rain and lightning, I was engrossed in a movie while my younger brothers played in the spacious garage. The garage, capable of accommodating 4 cars, allowed us to skateboard, ride bikes, and engage in various activities when our parents were out. Adjacent to the garage, a park lay to the left, and we had no neighbors on that side. The footpath, illuminated by street lamps, attracted people walking their dogs or enjoying nighttime activities. Our driveway conveniently led straight into the park, making it an ideal place to grow up. On this particular night, my brother had gone out as usual, leaving us to our movies. Midway into our second movie, my younger brothers rushed in, claiming a man was watching them from the park near our fence. While I'd normally assume it was a prank, their expressions suggested genuine concern. Deciding to investigate, we returned to the garage, but initially there was no sign of anyone. However, a lightning flash illuminated just outside the garage, revealing the man my brother had seen now standing in our yard, watching us. In panic, we screamed, slammed the door shut, and sought refuge in my parents' room. Locking the door, we grabbed their phone, took it into the bathroom, and locked that door as well. I immediately called my brother's friend's house. His friend answered, and I urgently informed him about the man in our yard. He shouted to my brother and assured us they were on their way with their BMX bikes. Though it felt like an eternity, they arrived within what seemed like minutes. My brother informed his friend's parents, who promptly called the police and came to our aid. When they arrived, they assured us that the man was gone. The police conducted thorough searches of our house, yard, streets, and the park, providing a sense of reassurance at that time. My big brother's unwavering bravery and protective nature were as comforting to us as the police presence. Shortly after, my parents returned home with 2 police cars, neighbors in the driveway, and my brother's friends' parents gathered. It was a time before mobile phones, leaving them undoubtedly anxious as they rushed into our driveway. I don't recall hearing if the man was ever found or apprehended. Years later, after I moved out and my younger brothers took over my room, my dad revealed an unsettling incident. One night, my younger brother woke my parents, pale as a ghost, recounting a man standing at his window asking, "Hey boy, are your parents home?" My parents hadn't disclosed this incident to any of us at that time. However, the timeline coincided with them reinforcing the window fly screen and adding metal anti-break in bars. Last year, a friend, let's call her Julie, and I decided to go backpacking in a remote section of the Appalachian Mountains in North Carolina. This mountain trail started at a Boy Scouts camp at its base, and we planned to hike its length from one side to the other. Expected to take about 4 days. We drove separately to the mountain, and Julie arrived at the trail parking area before me. The parking area consisted of a dirt road adjacent to a creek, with 3 other cars parked, including hers. After meeting up, we began the ascent of approximately 3,000 feet to reach the summit, starting around 3:00 p.m. I had only backpacked twice before and camped about 3 times previously, always with someone else responsible for researching the area, checking the weather, and camping specifics. However, this time, I took charge of selecting our hike location. Unfortunately, I hadn't checked the weather or the trail conditions. It simply looked like a beautiful and enjoyable trail. On the other hand, Julie, being experienced in backpacking from her past work leading Appalachian trail trips for school kids, had already checked the weather and trail status. It turned out thunderstorms were forecasted for the week, and there was also a connection to an unresolved homicide case associated with this trail. Naively, these factors didn't deter me as we ascended. During our hike, we passed the other car owners from the base parking lot, a woman and man with their dog. A fully equipped man with a backpack and another man with hiking sticks, seemingly on a day hike around 50 p. Despite it being cleared, there was no one around except for a few old campfires, indicating the area hadn't seen rain for about a week. We pitched our tents and went to gather firewood. About 20 feet up from our camp, we noticed an abandoned tent. Initially hesitant to intrude, we eventually investigated since there was no sign of anyone around. Peering inside the tent through a ventilation flap, I observed a wet sock, 3 Cliff Bar wrappers, and an unused condom. Although peculiar, we dismissed it as there was no one present. After dinner, securing our bear bag, we went to sleep. The night brought rain, and I, unaccustomed to sleeping on a hard surface, experienced periodic restlessness in the darkness, unable to discern if I was dreaming or awake. During the night, I thought I heard 2 people approaching our camp from the direction Julie and I had come from. They halted about 10 feet away, exchanged whispers, and one of them walked through our camp. The following morning, surprisingly well rested, we had breakfast, and I shared my dreamlike experience with Julie, only for her to confirm she'd experienced the same. Observing footprints through our camp, we naturally revisited the mysterious tent from the day before, which remained untouched. Continuing our hike toward the summit, persistent rain from the previous night made the trail impassable due to overgrowth. Frustrated, we returned to our cars and left. I couldn't shake off the mystery of why 2 individuals would navigate a challenging 2,900-foot trail in complete darkness without any flashlights. This incident occurred in August 2013 in the southern Oregon mountains. I served as a USAF Security Forces airman and a military policeman. On this day, my girlfriend was at work, and with the scorching heat transforming into thunderstorms, my colleague Nick, another military cop, and I opted to explore some forgotten back roads, seeking relief from the town's heat. Southern Oregon boasted a labyrinth of logging roads, some abandoned and obscured by nature. During our off days, Nick and I often embarked on journeys, navigating through known and undiscovered routes, and spending hours in the mountains before finding our way back to paved roads. On this particular day, storm clouds gathered over the mountains as we embarked on an unfamiliar road. After an hour's drive, we encountered no signs or sounds of other people in the woods. Rounding a bend amid thick fir woods, we entered a meadow surrounded by dense aspen groves. The meadow lay eerily still and perfectly flat, a peculiar stillness devoid of bird songs, insect buzz, or any wildlife, and notably, no other human presence. Near the tree line on the far side of the meadow sat an unusual picnic table. Painted in a bright orange hue, it was considerably larger than a standard park table, prompting Nick to drive closer for inspection. Feeling a sense of unease, I cautiously stepped out of the truck to examine it. Despite my height of only about 5'5", the table appeared ridiculously oversized and practically unusable. Its seats were nearly chest-high, requiring a climb to sit on them. While I inspected the table, Nick directed me to something in aspen grove. At first, I couldn't discern what he was looking at, But then I noticed a splash of color amidst the thick trees. A small one-man tent set back about 50 feet from the peculiar table. An initial feeling of dread swept over me, certain someone lurked inside. With no campsites, people, or main roads for miles, camping in such a remote location seemed bizarre. Despite our apprehension, observing the tent revealed no movement or sound. Nick suggested calling out, a proposition I hesitated to entertain. Nonetheless, I yelled, "Hey, anyone in there?" No reply ensued, intensifying our unease. Debating whether to leave or investigate further, we settled on having Nick position the truck for a swift departure if necessary, while I cautiously proceeded toward the tent through the trees, my senses heightened. Upon reaching the campsite, several oddities caught my attention: scattered backpacks, the absence of a fire or collected wood, and the tent overflowing with backpacks and women's clothing. Overwhelmed by a sense of dread, I turned to inform Nick. As I departed, Nick started yelling to leave immediately. Rushing back to the truck, I discovered a beat-up old Ford Taurus blocking our exit from the meadow. Without hesitation, I leaped into the passenger seat as Nick accelerated, maneuvering past the obstructing car. The car, occupied by two men with a third person slumped against the rear window, attempted to impede our departure. Nick skillfully navigated around them, driving back the way we came. Though fearful, we reached the highway without seeing the car again. Unsure of the occupant in the back, I promptly contacted the state police, who assured me an investigation. However, the next day, a trooper reported that the campsite, backpacks, and women's clothing had vanished, though signs of recent human presence remained. The strange table remained near the dense aspen grove. I vowed never to return to that area.